Jasmine gave Naomi's assistant a call and tried to keep her tone level. If Naomi unilaterally cancels the contract, she'll have to pay a high penalty.
What do you mean by unilateral cancellation? It was your staff who slandered and insulted Naomi in the first place. He even said that he would cancel our contract on behalf of the Wyvern Group. And you want us to pay you a penalty? Please stop joking. I'll only say one thing. If you don't make him apologize to Naomi, don't expect our collaboration to continue.
Without giving Jasmine a chance to reply, Naomi's assistant hung up. Good job, Naomi said. With my current status, not just anyone can offend me and get away with it. Speaking of which, I really have to thank that security guard named Steven. I thought my fans would leave me after I admitted that I littered yesterday, but who would have thought? In just one day, I gained more than 10 million fans. Her assistant agreed. No matter what you do, your fans will always love you. Do you think that brat will apologize to me? Naomi asked. Of course. Ever since you took the initiative to apologize on live broadcast, you gained a lot of support from the fans. So even though you're in a conflict with the Wyvern Group, your fans are on your side. The product you endorsed for the Wyvern Group has been rejected by many of them. They say that sales are plummeting. With the company's current predicament, they would have to force Steven to apologize to you if they want to resolve this. Naomi grinned. Well done, Steven. You offended me, and this is the result. What a shame. After the call ended, Jasmine felt a headache coming on. Yesterday, Steven had refused to apologize to Naomi, and he'd come to work as usual this morning. Many employees at the company were furious when they saw Steven going about his day as if nothing had happened. There was a world of difference between yesterday's and today's sales. This made Jasmine even more anxious. She found Steven while he was on patrol. You have to apologize. I can't do that. She's a dishonorable citizen. Who's really the citizen with questionable morals here? You or her? Jasmine held out her phone to Steven. Take a good look for yourself. Steven took the phone. There was a news article on the screen.
Yesterday, Naomi apologized on a live broadcast for littering. Her fans and even the media were praising her unanimously for being a good citizen. Naomi had become a role model citizen to the rest of the city.
Steven had forced Naomi to apologize for a good cause. How had the situation spiraled this far? Is this what you mean by someone with bad character? Jasmine echoed. Even if she is a terrible person, she's too popular. Her fans will only continue to grow, and before long, she'll become the incarnation of justice. If someone like her cancels the contract with our company, what do you think the consumers would think? Would they still trust us and purchase our products? And without Naomi, I won't be able to implement the promotional activities I planned. Do you know how much of a loss this will cause us? Steven threw up his hands in frustration. She's not a good person. If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do about it. Steven, I'll give you one last chance. If you don't apologize to Naomi, I'll have to fire you. We're talking in circles. I told you yesterday I'm not going to apologize to her. I doubt the big boss would want to work with someone like Naomi anyway. Jasmine was exasperated. She couldn't get through to him. But she'd done what she could. You leave me no choice, Steven. Jasmine headed up to the CEO's office to find Dennis. To her surprise, he rejected her proposal to fire Steven. Dennis even told her that no one had the authority to fire Steven except for his boss. My boss hates sacrificing his own employees to curry favor with customers or our business partners. This is not in line with our company's principles towards our employees. It would be best if you don't bring this up so lightly in the future. If you can't take care of the matter with Naomi, I can inform my boss and ask him for assistance. Jasmine quickly interjected. There's no need for that. I can take care of this. It had only been one day since she took over the position of vice president. If she couldn't even handle her first task and had to make Dennis's boss take action, what would he think of her abilities? Don't worry, Miss Jasmine, Dennis said. There's always a path to the mountain. When the water flows, a path will open up. Even if it's difficult, the situation will be resolved eventually. When Jasmine left the CEO's office, Steven was waiting for her in the hallway outside. Did you come here to laugh at me? No, I wanted to ask you for one of the company's cars. I'm going to the airport tomorrow to pick someone up. Don't you have a car? Why would you want a car from the company? I have to pick them up in the company's car. Also, it has to be our extended Rolls-Royce Phantom. I can't make this decision alone. Let me ask Mr. Lucero, Jasmine said. She went back into the CEO's office and relayed Stephen's request. She thought Dennis would refuse, but he agreed without saying too much. It was at this moment when more bad news hit the company. Dozens of celebrities who had been endorsing the other products from the Wyvern Group announced that they would cancel their contract with the company. Their announcements went viral, and the Wyvern Group rose to the center of the limelight. Wyvern Group was among the trending searches, and they became the object of public scrutiny. These celebrities had obviously withdrawn from their partnership at the Wyvern Group because of Naomi. It seemed like her influence was high within Santa Ana's entertainment industry. This incident caused the Wyvern Group's reputation to drop to rock bottom. The company had recently released a medical device to the public, but customers who had placed an order were canceling left and right. Jasmine's headache was getting worse. She'd only just become the vice president, but she was already faced with such a predicament. If this went on, their efforts to develop the new medical device would be wasted, and the large investment during the early stages would go down the drain. Jasmine was even more annoyed when she thought about how, even though Stephen had caused all this, she couldn't even make him take any kind of responsibility. Stephen, you're suspended for 1 week. For now, Jasmine didn't want to see even a glimpse of Stephen's face at the company. Out of sight, out of mind, and the calmer the soul. Stephen shrugged. I don't care if I'm suspended. I'll get paid anyway. He took off his uniform and left the building. Stephen decided to check out the consumer market with his abundance of free time. While the customers were retracting their orders on the Wyvern Group's new medical device, another company, Grazing Corporation, was suddenly on the rise. Their product was replacing the Wyvern Group's medical device. Stephen instructed Jack to look into it. According to Jack's information, Grazing Corporation was one of the Addams family's businesses. It wasn't hard to guess that they'd entered Santa Ana's market at this time because of Stephen and the Wyvern Group. With the Addams family's resources, they could easily force another company's sales to zero. It was clear that the Addams family wasn't giving up even after he defeated Garrett and Melinda and sent them packing back to Washington, D.C. Since that was the case, he could make them lose more of their valuable troops. The sun was setting by the time Stephen went home. Before returning, he'd given Kim a call and informed her of the incident with the Wyvern Group. When he walked in the door, Kim did not look happy. Stephen, I know it's hard for you to apologize, but in life, things won't always go your way. You have to yield sometimes, even if you're not at fault. Think about this carefully. If the Wyvern Group went under because of this incident, what would happen to you? Are you prepared to face the criticisms? Are you prepared to lose your job? It hasn't been long since you've become the head of the security guards. It took effort for you to get to this position. And if you keep working hard, maybe you'll get promoted to an upper management position. Have you forgotten your agreement with the Haynes family? No, that's impossible. I'll never apologize to someone like her. She doesn't deserve it. Kim was exasperated when Stephen continued to be stubborn. Fine, take care of it yourself. She knew that Stephen had been wronged and that he didn't deserve this, but his future depended on this one apology. If Naomi had this much influence, there was no telling what she or her fans would do to him if he didn't apologize. Not to mention, the Wyvern Group was powerful as well. What would they do to Stephen if he indirectly ruined their company? Stephen felt a little helpless. He knew where Kim was coming from, but there was nothing he could say because she didn't know his identity. Stephen left the house to grab dinner outside since he didn't want to ruin the mood at the dining table. He was planning on having a meal at a restaurant nearby, but he ran into Jasmine the moment he opened the door. Stephen had no choice but to go somewhere else. As he walked down the street, the aroma of a pancake stall on the side of the road enticed him. He hadn't eaten anything since lunchtime. Stephen took out $10 and bought a few pancakes. He munched on them as he walked away. A Porsche 911 drove by. Miss Tanya, look, Isn't that Stephen? The driver asked. Tanya was sitting in the passenger seat, scrolling on her phone. Tanya looked out the window. That's him, all right. Is that his dinner? He can only afford pancakes for dinner. He must have been delusional when he tried to extort billions from my grandpa for saving him. Yeah, people like him deserve it. They don't know their limits. If he wasn't this greedy, he would have been a billionaire by now. Then he could have had a proper meal at a fancy restaurant. Wait, stop the car, Tanya instructed. She got out of the car and caught up to Stephen. Isn't your dinner a little too shabby? Tanya reached into her designer bag and took out a wad of bills. She waved them in front of him. Here, I'll treat you to a good meal. Without waiting for his response, she threw the money at him. Tanya returned to the car feeling very satisfied. The driver beamed with pride. Miss Tanya, you were so cool just now. You threw the money at him and he was completely stunned. I think he was too happy to react. He got so much money from me for free. At home, Tanya told Andy about her encounter with Stephen. He agreed that she'd done the right thing. A brat like him who doesn't know his place should be taught a lesson. I want him to understand that not just anyone can cheat me out of my money. By the way, Grandpa, I just received news that Dr. Sloan is coming to Santa Ana tomorrow. Are you talking about the world-renowned Dr. Lionel Sloan? He's a national treasure. There are rumors that he's lived for more than 100 years, and he's still radiating with vigor and vitality. His medical skills and his ability to save lives are one of the best. It would be an honor to meet with him. Andy cleared his throat when he realized that he was starting to ramble. Tanya, make arrangements. Tomorrow morning we'll head to the airport and personally welcome Dr. Sloan. I'm on it, Grandpa. Stephen knew that Kim, Natalie, and Jasmine were upset, so he decided to spend the night at the Wyvern Group. The CEO's office alone was on par with a 5-star hotel. Dennis didn't go home either. What time is Lionel coming? Stephen asked. He'll be at Santa Ana's airport at 10 in the morning. I'm sure his arrival will make the headlines. Dennis didn't know much about business, but he could still make an accurate assumption as to why Stephen had invited Lionel here. Our new vice president has been really anxious for the past 2 days. I was really worried about her. I thought you were testing her, but you actually had a plan. Now that Lionel's here, all the celebrities will have to step aside and give him the spotlight. That's right, Stephen said. A great doctor like Lionel, who serves the nation and his people, is a true celebrity. Oh yeah, contact Noah and ask him to come with me tomorrow to pick up Lionel. I owe Noah a lot, so I should bring him with me. Being your subordinate is a blessing indeed. If Noah knows your real identity, I'm guessing he would be really excited, Dennis said. When Jasmine went to work the next morning, she spotted Stephen getting into the company's extended Rolls-Royce Phantom with Noah. Jasmine had no idea what Dennis was thinking. Why would he lend the company's car to Stephen? Who was he picking up? On the other hand, Naomi had been waiting for Stephen to come over and apologize. She became restless when there was no reply from the Wyvern Group. She gave her assistant further instructions. Tell the Wyvern Group that I'm only giving them 1 more hour. If I don't see Stephen apologizing to me in 1 hour, all scheduled events will be canceled. Meanwhile, Jasmine was having a meeting at the Wyvern Group's conference room. The company was in a difficult position because Naomi was threatening to cancel the contract. Whether it was its reputation or its products, they were in a predicament. There was no way out. This was the influence of a popular internet celebrity like Naomi. Jasmine rubbed her temples as she looked over the sales report. Her headache was not getting better. Her assistant came over. Miss Jasmine, Naomi's manager just called. What did he say? They're giving us 1 hour. If Stephen doesn't apologize to her in 1 hour, they're canceling all scheduled activities. Jasmine's team voiced their frustrations. Damn it, we made so many preparations for the promotions, but now Naomi's cutting her ties with the company. Miss Jasmine, in my opinion, we have to take measures into our own hands during a crisis. For the benefits of the Wyvern Group, even if we have to stuff Stephen into a car, we have to make him apologize to Naomi. It's the only way to save our company. The other members of the team agreed. Jasmine nodded. All right, that's the only way. She turned to her assistant. "Tell Naomi's manager that Stephen will be there in 1 hour to apologize. As for getting him into the car, I'll do it myself." Jasmine stood up and slammed the report on the table. "Dismissed." The airport was packed, and the VIP exit was especially crowded. It was rare for this many people to be there at the same time. Countless reporters were holding up their cameras as if they were afraid that they would miss the moment. Lionel Sloane was coming to Santa Ana. This was explosive news. There were rumors that Lionel was more than 100 years old, and he accomplished this through his special training. Despite his advanced age, he was as healthy and vigorous as a 60-year-old man. He was famous for his talent in saving lives. His skills were extraordinary. Lionel was the head of Golden Age Medical Hospital. During times of war, Lionel and his people descended from the mountains and assisted in saving the country. They saved numerous lives during a plague that had caused chaos across the land. Everyone relied on Lionel and his people's outstanding medical team. Their efforts contributed greatly to the current peace today. Lionel had even been awarded a medal that was recognized on the national level. Therefore, his arrival in Santa Ana was a sensational event. Besides the reporters, many prominent people in the city were also gathered here, including the 3 leaders of the Commerce Guild and members of wealthy families. They were all looking forward to seeing Lionel in person. Even the richest man in Santa Ana, Andy Harrell, had personally come to the airport to wait for him. Andy had always kept a low profile, and very rarely did he appear in public. His appearance made everyone suspicious. Was Andy the person who invited Lionel to Santa Ana? In the entire city, only he had the qualifications to invite someone like Lionel. While everyone was speculating, Stephen and Noah arrived in their company's Rolls-Royce Phantom. They joined the crowd at the VIP exit. Tanya ridiculed Stephen as soon as she saw him. "Look who it is. It's Stephen, the person who looked down on 100,000 but bought pancakes at a roadside stall. What are you doing here? This isn't a place for someone like you." "I'm here to pick someone up," Stephen said lightly. Tanya gestured to the VIP gate. "Pick who up? Do you even know who'll be exiting through that gate? I think you're in the wrong place, unless you want to tell me that you're here to pick up Dr. Sloane." "Yeah, I'm here to pick up Lionel." Tanya laughed. "Do you even know who that is? How could you have the right to pick him up?" Andy glanced at Stephen. "I can see you haven't changed since we last saw each other. Did you come running when you heard that Dr. Sloane would be here today? It's best if you forget the plan you've cooked up. Otherwise, don't blame me for the consequences." The surrounding bystanders turned their attention to Andy. His warning made it seem like Lionel had come to Santa Ana because of him, which made sense because he was the wealthiest person in the city. Andy was surprised when Stephen didn't cower in the slightest. "I'll give you 10 days. In 10 days, I want to see you apologizing to me. Otherwise, be prepared for the downfall of the Harrell family." Andy was stunned. He'd dominated Santa Ana for many years. Everyone treated him with respect. But Stephen had actually dared to speak to him in such a tone. Even the head of the city wouldn't have the courage to say such a thing. The onlookers were similarly astonished. Stephen was the first person to publicly provoke the richest man in Santa Ana. Everyone pitied Stephen for digging his own grave. Offending Andy was the same as a death sentence. "Are you angry because of what I did?" Tanya asked. "Yes, I threw money at you, but it's an honor for a young lady like myself to humiliate you with money. There are so many people out there who would want me to do the same to them, but they'll never get the chance." Stephen sneered. "Should I say thank you?" "No need for thanks," Tanya said smugly. "A lowly person like you is not worthy of that. Since you dared to provoke my family, don't blame me for what happens next." Andy stopped her when she was about to signal for her bodyguards to take action. "Tanya, forget it. Dr. Sloane will be here any minute. We should welcome him in high spirits. We'll deal with this man who doesn't know his place after this is over." "Okay, Grandpa." A commotion at the VIP gate caught their attention. An elderly man with a powerful presence walked out in large strides. He was accompanied by his entourage. "Dr. Sloane's here." The reporters waiting on both sides of the path aimed their cameras at Lionel. Those who were standing closer to him held out their microphones for a brief interview. Dr. Sloan, I'm glad that you were able to take the time to visit Santa Ana. May I ask if the wealthiest man in the city, Andy Harrell, invited you? Are you here for business or personal reasons? Lionel was a national treasure. Regardless of where he went, he would always be the center of attention. Lionel was aware of his prominent status, but he didn't put on any airs. He amicably answered the reporter's questions as he walked along. I'm here for personal reasons. An old friend of mine invited me for a visit. Andy didn't know who this old friend was, but as the wealthiest man in the city, Lionel should want to form a friendly connection with him. Andy decided to go up and greet him. The crowd noticed him walking over and parted to the side to open up a path. It's nice to meet you, Dr. Sloan. I'm Andy Harrell. Your heart and soul serve the nation and its people. I've always wanted to learn from you. I may be the wealthiest man in the city, but I've always upheld my duty as a citizen. I regularly make donations to charity and provide funds to make the city a better place. Dr. Sloan, I would like to offer my hospitality as your host. Please do me this favor. Andy's words were polite, and he also made it clear that he was on the same level as Lionel. His art of speech was ingenious. There were many people present who wanted to invite Dr. Sloan to their homes, but they withdrew after hearing Andy's invitation. Who would compete with the wealthiest man in the city? As for Lionel, his art of speech was on par with Andy's. He praised him, and then he tactfully refused. Mr. Harrell, I appreciate your kindness. However, my friend came to pick me up. Everyone, including Andy, looked around. For a godly person like Lionel, his friend must also be extraordinary. Stephen was about to step forward and greet Lionel, but he was interrupted when a Maserati roared past. It screeched to a stop in front of him. The car door opened and Jasmine stepped out. Her gaze locked on Stephen, and she grabbed his arm immediately as if she was afraid that he would run away. You have to come with me and apologize to Naomi. There's only half an hour left. Where are we going? I haven't finished what I came to do, Stephen said in annoyance. Anxiety was written all over Jasmine's face. What could be more important than the future of the Wyvern Group? A voice from behind interrupted them. Miss, may I ask if you're here to pick me up? Jasmine turned around and realized that it was Lionel Sloan. With his reputation, she was naturally aware of who he was. Jasmine had worked for one of the top 500 enterprises before, and she'd been placed in many nerve-wracking situations, but she was still nervous when facing a national treasure like Lionel. She couldn't keep the stutter out of her voice. No. Stephen rolled his eyes. What about me? Am I invisible? Then he put on a smile. You're right, Dr. Sloan. This young lady is here to pick you up, but she'll be heading back separately. Stephen pointed at the extended Rolls-Royce Phantom that was parked beside the road. That's your ride. Lionel's face was full of smiles as he stroked his beard. Stephen led Lionel to the company's car. Jasmine was left standing in a daze at the airport. Stephen was here to pick up Lionel? She was the vice president of the Wyvern Group. How could she have not known about this? Andy watched Stephen open the car door for Lionel. Was Stephen the old friend Lionel had been referring to? As soon as this thought crossed his mind, he shook his head. That was impossible. Why would a world-renowned doctor like Lionel be good friends with someone who wasn't even 30 yet? Grandpa, there's a logo of the Wyvern Group on the car. I'm guessing the boss of the Wyvern Group will be meeting with Dr. Sloan soon. I bet Stephen used one of his tricks to get his boss to let him come pick him up. Andy thought about it and felt that Tanya was right. Even I had to personally come to the airport to welcome a national treasure like Dr. Sloan. But not only did Mr. Lucero not show up, he even sent someone like Stephen to welcome him. This shows how powerful Mr. Lucero is. Yes, he was able to acquire the Klein Group overnight, and he also had the support of Lucas Klein. Even the Commerce Guild was here like everyone else today, but Mr. Lucero himself didn't come. He can't be ordinary. The city has been thrown into chaos ever since Naomi canceled her contract, but I don't think this will be a problem for the Wyvern Group. While Andy was listening to Tanya's analysis of the situation, a thought occurred to him. A person from the Wyvern Group came to pick up Dr. Sloan. Could it be? In the car, Stephen and Lionel sat next to each other. The only person on the same level as Lionel was the Grand Palace Master. "How have you been, Lionel?" Stephen asked with a smile. Lionel was in a good mood after reuniting with a friend he hadn't seen in a while. He even started cracking jokes. "I've been doing well. I'm indebted to you. Ever since you taught me that technique, I've been practicing it daily. My body feels stronger and tougher. I feel like I can live up to 200 or even 500 years old." Noah, who was sitting next to Stephen, sighed with emotion. "Our country would prosper if you were to live to 500 or even 1,000. 1,000 years? Doesn't that mean I'll become a monster?" Lionel chuckled. "May I ask for your name?" "I'm Noah, the director of the technology department at the Wyvern Group. I've looked up to you since I was young. I never thought I would get the chance to meet you. Would it be all right to take a picture with you?" But before Lionel could respond, Noah interjected. "I apologize for making a rude request during our first meeting. Forget what I said." "Lionel, why don't the three of us take a picture together?" Stephen suggested. "Noah, you don't mind, right?" "I would be honored," Noah said. Lionel smiled. This was his first time seeing Stephen offering to take a picture with someone else. Noah must be an important friend. The three of them took a picture using Noah's phone. "Thank you, Dr. Sloan. I'll treasure this photo." Lionel laughed. If he knew Stephen's real identity, he would be even more excited. Stephen got down to business after the picture. "Lionel, besides introducing you to Noah, I actually invited you to Santa Ana because of a selfish request of mine." "Go ahead," Lionel said. "The Wyvern Group is a business under my name. We've launched a new medical device recently, and because of many reasons, our marketing strategy failed and our current prospects are bleak. I wanted to ask if you could endorse our product." Lionel and Stephen were good friends, and he couldn't help but tease him for his earnest tone. "A lofty business owner like yourself has such an important request for me. I'm honored." "Dr. Sloan, are you saying that you agree?" Noah asked in surprise. "Of course. How could I refuse when Stephen was asking me? Also, I've paid close attention to your product ever since it was in the development phase. Stephen sent me a test product, and after trying it out myself, the results were better than I expected. There was a significant increase in the patient's recovery rate. It's an incredible product that will benefit our country greatly, and promoting it to the public would be beneficial." Noah's respect for Lionel deepened. As expected of a world-renowned doctor, he made decisions based on the health of the general public. After Lionel refused Andy's offer at the airport and got in the Wyvern Group's car, the news spread across the city in a matter of minutes. When the Rolls-Royce Phantom arrived at the Wyvern Group's building, the entrance was crowded with reporters. They gathered around Lionel when he stepped out of the car and bombarded him with questions. "Dr. Sloan, may I ask why you've come to the Wyvern Group? Are you on good terms with the CEO, Mr. Lucero? Dr. Sloan, are you one of the company's business partners?" Lionel held up a hand as he stood in the middle of the crowd. "Everyone, quiet down. I came to Santa Ana because an old friend invited me here, and I'm at the Wyvern Group to discuss an endorsement contract. They've released a new medical device recently, and I swear on my reputation that it's a revolutionary invention. Not only can it shorten the recovery time for patients, but it's also affordable for everyone. That's why I've decided to endorse this product without compensation." Meanwhile, Jasmine had just returned to the conference room at the Wyvern Group. She was just as worried as before. Nothing had been resolved. Her assistant barged into the room. "Miss Jasmine, you won't believe this. Dr. Sloan, he—" Seeing that her assistant was so anxious and incoherent, Jasmine's mind raced in a panic as she recalled the earlier incident at the airport. Lionel had gotten into Stephen's car. Did they encounter any mishaps on the way here? The situation with Naomi and her contract hadn't been resolved yet. If something were to happen to Lionel while he was in the Wyvern Group's car, it would be a disaster for the company. What happened to him? The assistant finally managed to calm down and spoke properly. Dr. Sloan just announced in front of the reporters that he would be endorsing our new product. He even said he would do it for free. Jasmine gave her a disapproving look. How is that possible? Why would someone like Dr. Sloan volunteer to endorse one of our products without compensation? Are you making fun of me even though you know we're in a predicament? Do you want to be fired? Even if Lionel did get into Stephen's car, that didn't mean their destination was necessarily the Wyvern Group's building. Annika, the director of personnel and finance, spoke up. Miss Jasmine, she's telling the truth. Here, take a look at this. Annika showed Jasmine her phone. There was a trending news article on the screen. It was an interview with Lionel in front of the company. Jasmine skimmed the article. Her assistant wasn't lying. It was true. Lionel would be endorsing their company's product for free. How had Stephen convinced him? No matter how much she thought about it, she didn't have an answer. With Lionel's prestigious background, a mere internet celebrity like Naomi was no longer relevant. His endorsement made the headlines, and articles about his collaboration with the Wyvern Group kept popping up. As such, the company's crisis was resolved in a matter of minutes, but that led to another problem. The phones would not stop ringing.
Hello, Miss Jasmine. I would like to place an order for $500 million worth of your company's new treatment device. Hello, Miss Jasmine. I would like to place an order for $1 billion worth of your company's new product. The deposit will not be a problem.
Everyone was calling to place orders. In the past, one of the executives would call, but this time it was the CEOs calling. It was very obvious that they all wanted to establish a connection with Lionel Sloan, the national treasure. In addition, the Wyvern Group's sales department, marketing department, personnel department, productions department, and many other departments became swamped with work. Many A-list celebrities took the initiative to reach out to the company, asking if it would be possible to endorse one of their products. Meanwhile, Naomi was lying comfortably on the couch. Her assistant was massaging her legs. Is 1 hour almost up? Has the Wyvern Group given us a response? There's still 10 minutes to go, her assistant said. You don't have to worry. I believe the Wyvern Group's staff will be escorting Stephen here soon. It's their company's future on the line. They wouldn't sacrifice themselves for one security guard. I'm sure they have their priorities straight. When they bring Stephen here, you can do whatever you want to him. 10 minutes later, Stephen still didn't arrive, but Naomi did receive a call from her boss. Are you an idiot, Naomi? What have you been up to these days? Did you really cancel your contract with the Wyvern Group? Do you know how many A-list celebrities are fighting to sign a contract with them? Naomi was stupefied. What are you talking about? Have you been living under a rock? Check the news, now! Naomi checked the news as she was told. Every article at the top was about Lionel Sloan's endorsement of the Wyvern Group. So that's why they were so confident. Her boss's angry voice sounded from her phone again. You wasted such a good opportunity with the Wyvern Group, and you even gave it up for Lionel. I will give you 1 hour to repair your relationship with their company. Do whatever it takes, even if you have to spend all your money. You have to get the endorsement contract back. Otherwise, I'm banning you from the live broadcast platform. Naomi started panicking. Even though she was a popular internet celebrity with hundreds of millions of fans, if she were banned by the live broadcast platform, she would lose publicity. It didn't matter how many fans she had, because after a prolonged absence, her fans would forget about her. There were many internet celebrities these days, and if one of them were banned, another would rise in popularity and take their place. Naomi threw her phone on the floor and kicked the assistant's hands away. What are you waiting for? Drive me to the Wyvern Group. The first person Naomi tried to look for at the company was Jasmine. She was in the conference room with the upper management. Miss Jasmine, everything that happened between us was a misunderstanding. I came over to inform you that I won't be dropping the contract. Let's continue to work together. According to the original plan, I'll participate in the events you've prepared. Naomi's arrogant attitude from just a few hours ago was nowhere to be seen. Stephen was also in the room. He interrupted Jasmine before she could say anything. It's not impossible for you to fulfill the contract, but first, apologize to everyone here. Maybe we could reconsider having you on board. It couldn't have been easy for someone as arrogant as Naomi to take the initiative to come here. Wasn't Stephen going too far by treating her like this? Just when Jasmine was about to try and smooth things over, Naomi lowered her head and apologized. Jasmine was stunned by Naomi's apology, but after giving it some thought, her behavior made sense. Lionel's endorsement without compensation instantly reversed the disadvantageous public opinion towards the Wyvern Group. If Lionel unconditionally placed his trust in their company, who else would have doubts? Even those fans without brains who had supported Naomi blindly were no longer as firm in their stance. In addition, the Wyvern Group had amassed 10 billion orders within minutes of Lionel's announcement. The company had once again become the leading enterprise in Santa Ana. "And what did you do wrong?" Stephen asked. "I shouldn't have canceled the endorsement contract with the Wyvern Group." Seeing the unsatisfactory look on Stephen's face, Naomi quickly added, "I shouldn't have threatened the company based on lies. If the Wyvern Group agrees to continue with the contract, I won't ask for compensation, and I'll endorse whichever products you want." No compensation? Endorsement of any product? Jasmine's face lit up. "I accept." However, Stephen shook his head. "No, Naomi, let me tell you one thing. From now on, you and the Wyvern Group will have nothing to do with each other." Naomi's disrespectful attitude made its reappearance. "Are you messing with me? I even apologized. What more do you want from me?" "Stephen, she already apologized and admitted her faults in front of everyone," Jasmine said. "The reason I told her to apologize is to make everyone here remember her. A morally corrupt person like her doesn't have the qualifications to collaborate with our company. And if she really wanted to sincerely apologize to us, why didn't she come yesterday? Instead, she chose to run over right after Dr. Sloan announced his endorsement of our product. It's clear that she's afraid of losing her fans, and she's scared of public opinion now that they're against her." Naomi glared at him. "What the hell are you on about? Miss Jasmine, your company is really weird. Do the security guards here have the authority to point fingers and make decisions about things like endorsements and contracts? If I didn't know any better, I would have thought he was the vice president instead of you." Jasmine realized that she'd been going along with Stephen's flow. It felt natural, as if she was letting her boss handle the situation. But Stephen wasn't her boss. If anything, she was his boss. Jasmine couldn't let him disgrace her any further. "I've made my decision. We'll be continuing our collaboration with Naomi. Why do you care about her personality anyway? Isn't it fine as long as she brings in money?" It seemed like Jasmine had been influenced by her days of working for one of the top enterprises in the world. To them, benefits were paramount. Personality and character were useless. Even so, the Wyvern Group didn't work like that. "No," Stephen said. Jasmine sighed. "Just because you somehow managed to convince Dr. Sloan for an endorsement deal doesn't mean you have the authority to make company decisions. Who do you think you are? The owner of the company?" "Yes, I am the owner." Stephen's confident tone made Jasmine question the validity of his answer. She thought back to when Stephen drove the company's car to pick up Lionel at the airport. After their drive back, Lionel immediately made an announcement regarding his endorsement, and the company's crisis was averted. Could Stephen be Mr. Lucero's boss, the owner of the Wyvern Group? Dennis walked over before the situation could escalate. "Miss Jasmine, my boss just informed me that people like Naomi, who have questionable morals, are not allowed to work with our company. We'll be unilaterally rescinding our contract with her." Naomi had no choice but to leave the company without achieving anything, because that was the decision made by the Wyvern Group's boss. She would receive a hefty sum because the company had canceled the contract, but it would be worth nothing compared to her bright future. She now had no ties with the Wyvern Group, and she would be banned from the live broadcast platform. Jasmine thought it was odd that the statement from Dennis's boss was consistent with Stephen's actions. "Mr. Lucero, did your boss invite Dr. Sloan to the city?" "Yes, he did. When Naomi told us that she wanted to cancel the endorsement contract, my boss had already contacted Dr. Sloan." "So he was always one step ahead of us? He must be powerful if Dr. Sloan came here because of him. I'm getting more curious as to what he looks like. If he's single, I'll chase after him." Just as Dennis was about to respond, Stephen cut in. "You should give up. Mr. Lucero's boss is already married. If he was single, he would never fall for you." Jasmine put her hands on her hips. "You're just a security guard. What would you know? Stop acting like you're someone important. Anyway, I've always been beautiful, and there are loads of men who are interested in me. I don't believe Mr. Lucero's boss is an exception." Dennis looked away and tried to hold back his laughter. He desperately wanted to tell Jasmine that his boss was right in front of her, but he had to keep his mouth shut because he was sworn to secrecy. After Kim found out that the Wyvern Group had officially canceled their contract with Naomi, she called Stephen and apologized. As for Natalie, she was overjoyed that Stephen had personally gone to the airport to pick up Lionel. This was a topic worth bragging about. She could tell her family that her son-in-law had met the famous doctor, Lionel Sloane, in person. One afternoon, the Haynes family was having a meeting at their house. They were not pleased with Natalie's news, especially Gianna and her family. Originally, they'd received a lot of attention because of their future son-in-law, Edward. Even Gordon and Mavis had thought highly of them. But with Natalie's news, Stephen had stolen the spotlight. "What are you showing off for?" Gianna mocked. "He was just Dr. Sloane's escort. That's the same as being his driver. If it weren't for the Wyvern Group, how would he have had the chance to escort him?" Gianna's husband supported her. "Exactly. Edward's nothing like him. The commander-in-chief recognized his skill and made him his personal guard. His future achievements are limitless. There's no need for him to be like Stephen and ride on the coattails of other people." Gianna and her husband were singing the same tune, and the rest of the Haynes family joined in. "Natalie, it's not a good habit to show off about nothing," Mavis scolded. "Who hasn't seen Dr. Sloane before? You and your family bring us shame every single day." Some time had passed since Linda was kicked out of Haynes Industries, but Cohen's resentment toward Natalie and her family had only grown stronger. "If Stephen is really that capable, then tell him to invite Dr. Sloane to our house." Kelly's husband backed him up. "Yeah, that will prove how competent he is." "Natalie, did you hear what Cohen said?" Gordon asked. "If he can't do it, then that will prove his lack of skills." Natalie didn't know what to say. Even the richest man in Santa Ana, Andy Harrell, had failed to invite Lionel to his home. How would Stephen be able to achieve that? While she was at a loss for words, Stephen joined the discussion. "So essentially, you just want me to invite Dr. Sloane to your home. That's easy. I'll make it happen." He thought for a moment. "Dr. Sloane arrived in Santa Ana a few days ago, and I've been planning on treating him to a meal. But since everyone here would like to meet him, then we can prepare a feast for him in your courtyard instead." Everyone from the Haynes family looked at each other. "Are you joking with us?" Gordon asked. "No, I'm being serious," Stephen said. "Oh yeah, you guys should make preparations soon. A few nice dishes and some good wine will be enough. Dr. Sloane might seem unapproachable because of his status, but he's actually friendly, generous, and easy to get along with." Mavis walked up to Stephen and placed the back of her hand on his forehead. She looked puzzled. "You don't have a fever. If you're not sick, how can you spout all of this nonsense?" "In my opinion, Stephen's bragging has rubbed off on Natalie," Gianna said. "The more time people spend with each other, the more alike they'll become." "Think about it," Gianna's husband said. "Who's Dr. Sloane? Will someone like him visit us?" Kim had her doubts. Although Stephen's recent outrageous claims had turned out to be true, they had been accomplished largely because of a lucky opportunity. But inviting Lionel as a guest would be impossible. Stephen wasn't bothered by their criticisms. "It seems like none of you believe me, but that doesn't matter. I've told you what to prepare. When the time comes and you have nothing ready, you'll only have yourselves to blame." After Stephen, Kim, and Natalie left, everyone from the Haynes family went about the rest of their day as they usually did. None of them took Stephen's words seriously. They were all looking forward to watching Stephen make a fool of himself tonight. After Stephen drove Kim back to Haynes Industries, he went back to the Wyvern Group. Due to the huge increase in orders, the Wyvern Group's stock of their new medical device had been depleted in just a few days. The customers didn't complain because of Lionel's status. They would rather wait a bit longer for their order than rush the company for the delivery. To meet the increase in demand, Stephen decided to purchase a factory on the outskirts of the city for mass production. This factory used to be a food processing plant. It had been shut down due to its poor management, and the owner had been worrying about selling it. Coincidentally, the Wyvern Group had a demand for it, so they came to an agreement and signed a contract. They were just waiting for one last meeting with the Wyvern Group to finalize the purchase. This matter had been arranged for tomorrow. Stephen's main purpose for coming to the Wyvern Group today was to ask Lionel to visit the Haynes family's house. Lionel had just finished his meeting with the Wyvern Group, and he easily agreed to Stephen's request. The two of them were similar in the sense that they valued a low-profile lifestyle. Instead of the company's Rolls-Royce Phantom, Stephen drove Lionel to the Haynes family's house in the Jeep he'd borrowed from Captain Floyd. Everyone in the Haynes family had arrived. They mocked Stephen while they were waiting for him. They were already anticipating his failure. Natalie and Kim were sitting on the side, holding their breaths. They were afraid for Stephen. If he showed up alone, the family's criticisms would be endless. Stephen's voice sounded from outside the house. "Grandma, Grandpa, I've invited Dr. Sloan over. Come out and welcome him." "Don't listen to him. He's probably alone," Cohen said. If Lionel were really here, Gordon and Mavis would rush out to greet him with no hesitation. But no one expected Lionel to really be in front of the house. And so, Gordon and Mavis didn't move. A moment later, the door to their courtyard was pushed open. An elderly man with an otherworldly presence stepped into the courtyard. Everyone in the Haynes family recognized the elderly man. It was none other than Lionel Sloan in the flesh. They were dumbfounded. No one had expected Lionel to visit their home. Stephen walked out from behind Lionel. "Why are all of you just sitting around? Are you really going to let our esteemed guest, Mr. Sloan, stand at the door?" His voice snapped Gordon and Mavis out of their shock. They hurried over and greeted Lionel. "Dr. Sloan, thank you for coming. I'm Gordon Haynes, and this is my wife, Mavis Haynes. We're honored to have you here. We've heard many things about you." It was rare for Gordon to be this enthusiastic. Mavis had to cut his long greeting short and remind him to invite Lionel into the courtyard. "Right, Dr. Sloan, please come in." "There's no need to be so polite," Lionel said with a smile. "Stephen, let's go in together." Gordon and Mavis were treating Lionel with such hospitality, but Stephen was the Grand Palace Master. If they had to put a label on it, Stephen's qualifications put him on the same level. Lionel couldn't go inside while Stephen followed him from behind. They were equal, so they would go in together. Under everyone's astonished gazes, Stephen and Lionel walked into the Haynes family's courtyard, shoulder to shoulder. When Stephen walked past Kim, he subtly gestured for her to relax. Kim was relieved that the situation had been taken care of, but at the same time, she had more doubts. Stephen had many incredible connections, but had it been to the point where he could invite someone like Lionel? Stephen scanned the tables. They were empty. "Grandma, Grandpa, didn't I tell you to make preparations? From the looks of it, you guys didn't do anything." Gordon and Mavis fell silent. The rest of the Haynes family looked at each other. A prominent guest like Lionel was there, but they hadn't prepared anything to welcome him. Their family would be humiliated if word got out. None of them had expected Stephen to actually invite Lionel to their house. Noticing the awkward atmosphere, Kim spoke up. "I prepared a few dishes before coming over. Dr. Sloan, if you don't mind, you can try some." "How would that be appropriate?" Cohen retorted. "Dr. Sloan is visiting us in person. We have to treat him with the utmost respect. In my opinion, we have to go to the best restaurant in Santa Ana." "As far as I know, the best restaurant in the city requires making a reservation half a day in advance. Uncle Cohen, did you make a reservation?" Stephen asked. Cohen had nothing to say. Lionel had years of experience dealing with various kinds of situations, so he understood what was going on. "Everyone, there's no need to inconvenience yourselves. I came here with my friend Stephen for a casual meal. I would be embarrassed if things were too grand." Out of everyone here, only Kim was prepared. She was the only one who believed in Stephen. He turned to Natalie and mouthed the words, "Mom, can you and Kim prepare a few more side dishes for Dr. Sloan?" If Stephen were ordering Natalie around under normal circumstances, the situation would usually end up with a string of curses. But this time, it would be an honor to cook for Lionel, and it would be even better if he complimented their cooking. Natalie sighed, but a wide smile was on her face as she pulled Kim into the house. Fortunately, Stephen had prepared several bottles of the special wine from the military, so everyone was able to enjoy a few drinks together when the dishes were served. After having a light meal, besides Gordon and Mavis, Natalie, Kim, and Stephen were the only ones who spoke with Lionel the longest. Needless to say, the rest of the Haynes family was filled with envy. While Lionel was chatting with them, the rest of the family broke into groups and moved to the side to discuss amongst themselves. "Do you really think Dr. Sloan paid us a visit because of Stephen? That's impossible," Cohen said. "It's only been a few days since Dr. Sloan came to Santa Ana. I doubt he's familiar with that many people here. Also, the Wyvern group asked Stephen to pick him up from the airport. I'm guessing he pretended to be someone important to invite Dr. Sloan here." "Now that you mention it, I heard Kim's friend became the vice president of the Wyvern group not long ago," Kelly's husband said. "I think Stephen pretended to be the vice president to persuade Dr. Sloan to come." Gianna's husband nodded. "I can't think of any other reason. Stephen's not that competent." "How should we expose him?" Megan's husband asked. Cohen chuckled and snapped his fingers. "That's easy. We can get Kim to call her friend and ask her to come over. Then we'll expose Stephen in front of Dr. Sloan. And when Kim's friend discovers that Stephen's impersonating her position, she'll definitely fire him." Kelly's husband, Gianna's husband, and Megan's husband agreed in unison. "That's a great idea." Cohen approached Kim and struck up a conversation. "Hey Kim, it's not every day we have someone like Dr. Sloan visiting our home. I heard your friend came over to the city from abroad recently. Why don't you call her and ask if she can come over?" "Yeah, having a meal with Dr. Sloan is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity," Kelly's husband added. Kim knew right away that they were up to something. She glanced at Stephen for his opinion. He smiled and nodded. Kim gave Jasmine a call and invited her to the Haynes family's house. After hearing that Lionel was there, Jasmine was thrilled and rushed over. When she arrived, Cohen, Kelly's husband, Gianna's husband, and Megan's husband eyed her in anticipation. The show was about to begin. "Miss Jasmine, becoming the vice president of the Wyvern group at your age is no easy feat." Cohen began with praises, then he changed the topic and shook his head. "But it's such a pity that you couldn't meet with Dr. Sloan until now. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought that Stephen was the Wyvern group's vice president." Jasmine felt a little ashamed because that wasn't the first time someone had told her that. Cohen saw that his provocation was working. "Miss Jasmine, I'm only saying this for your own good. Logically speaking, you, as the vice president, should be the host of today's gathering, but you didn't know anything about this. There could only be one reason, right?" Jasmine glanced at Stephen, and Cohen knew that she'd taken the bait. Jasmine never had a good impression of Stephen in the first place, so she would take this opportunity to teach him a lesson. "Stephen, can you tell me what's going on?" Without waiting for Stephen to reply, she continued. "I'm not trying to criticize you, but don't you think you're too daring? Considering Dr. Sloan's position, the Wyvern group holds his safety in high regard. Who gave you the authority to bring him here? If he got into an accident, would you be able to bear the consequences?" The Haynes family gloated while Jasmine called Stephen out directly. Cohen intervened and assumed the role of a mediator. "Miss Jasmine, even though Stephen is a part of our family, we've always been fair and impartial. No matter who it is, we won't tolerate injustice. And if I guess correctly, Stephen must have pretended to be the vice president in order to invite Dr. Sloan to our house. I can't think of any other reason. I believe he's deceived both you and Dr. Sloan." Lionel couldn't help but laugh. Was the dignified Grand Palace master that incompetent in the eyes of the Haynes family? Yes, that must be it, Kelly's husband said. Miss Jasmine, since Stephen's conspiracy has been exposed, you can do whatever you want to him. Our family won't interfere, even if he's our relative. The more the Haynes family spoke, the more ashamed Jasmine became. She was the vice president, and a mere security guard had impersonated her identity. She would be a laughingstock if the public caught wind of this. Kim contemplated Cohen's reasoning. She'd been wondering how Stephen had been able to invite Lionel here. Cohen's logic was enough to convince Natalie. Whatever pride she had from preparing a meal for Lionel was washed away with shame. For Kim's sake, I'll forgive you if you apologize to me and Dr. Sloan, Jasmine said. Stephen shrugged. All I did was invite Dr. Sloan to the Haynes family's home for a casual meal. Why make it so complicated? Besides, I didn't do anything wrong. What am I supposed to apologize for? Jasmine frowned. You pretended to be the vice president to persuade Dr. Sloan. Do you really think someone like you could get him to come here? It's not like you're the owner of the company. I am the owner. Jasmine gave him a disdainful look. This again. Kim turned to Stephen in surprise. Stephen cleared his throat. What I mean is, the owner of the Wyvern Group wanted me to accompany Dr. Sloan here for a meal. If you don't believe me, you can call Mr. Lucero and ask him. It went without saying that Jasmine didn't believe him in the least. She took out her phone and called Dennis, but his reply wasn't at all what she had expected. Was Stephen some kind of follower of the Wyvern Group's owner? Why was it that every time he did something questionable, it would turn out to be according to the owner's instructions? When I first arrived in Santa Ana, Stephen came to the airport to pick me up, Lionel explained. In the car, he told me about the Haynes family. I was grateful that he took the time to come all the way to the airport, so I asked the Wyvern Group's owner if I could have a meal with them. I thought it was a personal matter, so I didn't inform you, Miss Jasmine. It was a misunderstanding. Please don't take it to heart. Since that was coming from Lionel himself, what more could Jasmine say? Not at all, Dr. Sloan. I understand. Cohen, Kelly's husband, Gianna's husband, and Megan's husband were disappointed. This was the perfect opportunity to get rid of Stephen, but the issue at hand had been easily resolved. Kim and Natalie were relieved that it was just a minor misunderstanding. Jasmine joined their table, and they were quickly engaged in pleasant conversation regarding Lionel's future plans. I'm planning on opening an outpatient clinic in the city to promote my techniques. Lionel and his people resided deep in the mountains, and in recent years, the medical techniques they practiced gradually declined in bustling cities. As someone who'd achieved great success with traditional medical techniques, his goal was to revive them in contemporary times. Lionel, the national treasure, had received permission to open an outpatient clinic in Santa Ana. It would be a great opportunity for the city to receive treatment from one of the country's top doctors. Everyone in the courtyard applauded Lionel and expressed their support for his plans. Since Jasmine was here, at some point during the conversation, the Haynes family brought up the owner of the Wyvern Group. This was a topic that Jasmine was very interested in. Kim, have you heard about the Wyvern Group's owner? He's friends with an amazing person like Dr. Sloan, and he even foresaw the solution to our company's recent crisis with Naomi. I'd like to meet him one day. Kim could only listen as Jasmine continued to chatter. I have a new goal in life now. I want to win his heart and marry him. After working at one of the top 500 enterprises for so long, Jasmine had grown accustomed to the bold and confident personalities of her previous colleagues. They'd rubbed off on her. Whether it was about love, family, or work, she never hid her true thoughts. Lionel almost choked on his glass of wine. He was aware that Stephen was the mastermind of the Wyvern Group. Lionel's gaze swept across the table, pretending to look at no one in particular, but he was really trying to assess Stephen's reaction. Why are you being so sentimental? Stephen asked with a frown. Didn't I already tell you that the Wyvern Group's owner is married? Just give up. You say he's married, but so what? He can always get a divorce. For a beautiful woman like me, no matter how outstanding his wife is, I'm definitely the best partner for him. Stephen had no words. Jasmine was ridiculous. Kim glared at her. Watch what you say, Jasmine. That's inappropriate for the dinner table. Besides, why are you looking forward to a divorce? That's not a happy occasion. But I'll only have a chance if he gets a divorce. Jasmine thought of something and leaned across the table. Hey, Stephen, I feel like every time you take action, it's because you received special instructions from the owner. That means you've met him before in person, right? Tell me, what does he look like? Stephen patted his chest. He looks just like me, handsome and elegant. Jasmine clicked her tongue. Whatever. Kim glanced at Stephen. She had a feeling that he was close to the Wyvern Group's owner. Although their meal tonight had been simple and crude, Lionel's presence made the dinner worth millions, if not billions. After all, how many people in this world were able to invite Lionel for a casual dinner with a few simple dishes and bottles of wine? The conversation at the table was interrupted when Jasmine's phone rang. Dennis was calling. What? Do you want Stephen to come with me? He's just a security guard. He can't be considered an executive of the company. Mr. Lucero, don't you think it's inappropriate to have him tag along?
It was my boss's idea.
Hearing that it was the Wyvern Group's owner's arrangement, Jasmine's attitude shifted 180 degrees. I see. Why didn't you say so earlier? I think it's a great idea. He knows that I'm only one person, so I could be at a disadvantage during negotiations. That's why he wants me to have a bodyguard. He's so considerate. Mr. Lucero, can you please tell me if your boss has feelings for me? Why else would he be so worried about my safety? Stephen was both shocked and amazed by how Jasmine's brain worked. On the other side of the line, Dennis felt a headache coming on. How was he supposed to answer her question?
I guess so.
Jasmine was filled with excitement. Kim, did you hear that? The owner of my company cares about me. It won't be long before we start dating. Lionel couldn't hold in his laughter, but thankfully, he'd finished his glass of wine. Kim and Jasmine weren't aware, but they'd narrowly avoided being splashed in the face with wine. At this time, two people were leisurely fishing by the riverbank. Well done, Austin. You managed to promote your grazing corporation's medical device to all the hospitals in the city. You earned a lot of money from this. That's all in the past, Austin said. You should already know that the Wyvern Group's new product has taken over the markets. It was only because Naomi threatened to cancel her contract with them that I was able to take advantage of the situation. I didn't expect them to have connections with someone like Lionel Sloan. With his endorsement, our company's product is no longer needed or wanted. All of the hospitals are introducing the Wyvern Group's model. Austin Adams was one of the 13 adopted sons of the current head of the Adams family. He was also known as the 13th Guard. The family had made arrangements for Austin to stay in Santa Ana and manage the grazing corporation. When Melinda came to the city, she hadn't utilized the grazing corporation's resources and had relied on her own methods. Austin was fishing with an elderly man named Marvin. He had deep ties with the Adams family. Marvin reeled in the fish he'd caught. I heard that orders from Wyvern Group's new product have reached tens of billions, and they're planning on expanding their production by purchasing a factory. They're in the process of sealing the deal. You've already come up with a countermeasure, haven't you? Yes, I knew about this already. The owner of the factory has business dealings with me, and we could be considered good friends. If Stephen wants to purchase the factory, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Marvin patted Austin's shoulder. Good, do your best. Right now, the position of the Adam family's successor is up in the air. I have high hopes for you. The next day, Stephen drove Jasmine to the factory located on the outskirts of Santa Ana. Besides finalizing the details of the contract, they were also here to inspect the factory. The owner of the factory was a man named Scott. When they arrived, he placed the contract on the table between them. "Miss Jasmine, once you sign this contract, the factory will be yours." The Wyvern Group and Scott had met several times before to come to an agreement. The contract had been drafted beforehand, so Jasmine briefly looked it over before picking up a pen and preparing to sign her name. Stephen was standing behind her when he saw a trace of triumph in Scott's expression. It was very well hidden, but it couldn't escape his notice. Stephen walked around the couch and grabbed Jasmine's arm. "Please check the contract again." Scott shot Stephen a glare. "Who are you supposed to be? I doubt you have the authority to tell your vice president what to do. Miss Jasmine, we've already discussed the terms of this contract. Are you doubting me? What happened to the trust between us?" Jasmine had met with Scott a few times before, and they'd agreed to the terms written on the contract. He seemed reliable. "Miss Jasmine, it's better to be careful," Stephen said. "With one stroke of your pen, the Wyvern Group could lose $10 million or more. It hasn't been that long since the issue with Naomi was resolved. If you were cheated out of $10 million now, what would the owner of the company say?" "What nonsense are you talking about? Can't you just hope for me to do well?" Stephen threw up his hands. "I'm just looking out for you. That's why I'm reminding you to be careful." Without waiting for a reply, Stephen picked up the contract and carefully read through each page. There were no problems with the initial paragraphs, but when it came to the transaction amount, Scott had clearly made some changes. Stephen pointed at the extra zero on the contract. $100 million? I remember that the price we agreed on was $10 million. How did it suddenly become $100 million? Jasmine grabbed the contract. Sure enough, the number on the page had been changed. The original $10 million had increased to $100 million. Scott had weaved in an extra zero at some point and managed to make the number ambiguous. Moreover, if one didn't look carefully, it would have been impossible to catch. If it weren't for Stephen, she would have signed the contract without knowing. And when Scott asked her for $100 million, she would have been in deep trouble. Scott seemed to be an honest person, but it turned out that he was a cunning businessman who resorted to trickery. "Mr. Scott, please explain yourself." "What's there to explain? When we discussed the contract previously, we did agree on a price of $10 million. But the situation is different now. Do you know how many buyers have come to find me in the past few days? Some are offering me $30 million, $50 million, and even $150 million. Selling this factory for $100 million is considered cheap." "We already agreed on $10 million, and I even paid the down payment," Jasmine countered. "It looks to me like the untrustworthy one is yourself." "Yes, I'm raising the price, but what can you do?" Scott said shamelessly. Stephen spoke up in Jasmine's stead. "Since you think that your factory is worth more than $10 million, then please return the $3 million deposit to us. We will not be purchasing your factory." "Surely you're not suggesting breaking the contract, right? If you are, that would mean you're refusing my generous offer. Do you really think I'm going to give you back your deposit?" Jasmine had never gone up against someone like Scott before. She didn't know what to do. If she lost the $3 million deposit, what would Dennis or the owner say? "If that's the case, then there's an easy solution." Stephen took a seat next to Jasmine. "Give us back the $3 million or adjust the contract according to the market price." "Are you threatening me?" Scott snapped his fingers. A group of people wielding wooden sticks rushed in from outside the factory. Jasmine leaned over to Stephen and whispered, "Aren't you a security guard? Do something." Stephen shrugged. "I'm not even an executive. What am I supposed to do?" Jasmine gave him an incredulous look. Stephen was unreliable, so she had to find some way out of this herself. "Mr. Scott, this is a society built on laws, and resorting to violence goes against the law." "Cut the nonsense." Scott gestured to the group behind him. "If you don't leave, you'll have to deal with them." "It looks like patience isn't one of your virtues," Stephen said. He rolled his shoulder before strolling up to Scott's subordinates. In the blink of an eye, the whole group was on the ground, clutching their stomachs in pain. Jasmine looked on in shock. Had Stephen always been that strong? Scott was even more astonished. He'd never imagined that the people who Austin had sent would be so weak. Stephen walked back to the couch. He grabbed Scott's collar and hauled him up. "You've seen what I can do. It doesn't matter how many people come." What do you want?" Scott stuttered. "Who told you to do this?" "It was Austin Adams." Jasmine looked at Stephen in surprise. So there was someone behind Scott. From recent events, it seemed like Stephen could predict the future whenever an incident involved the Wyvern Group. She recalled that Stephen had constantly stated that he was the owner. Could that be true? No, that was impossible. If Stephen really was the owner, he wouldn't have freeloaded off of Kim and her family for the past 3 years. It had to have been a coincidence. The Wyvern Group's owner gave Stephen personal instructions in advance, and today was no different. Yes, that had to be it. Stephen hadn't expected the name Austin Adams to come from Scott's mouth. He and Austin had been on friendly terms in the past. Back then, when the Adams family tried to track him down and kill him, Austin chose to be neutral. This was also the main reason why Austin was unable to improve his standing in Santa Ana. Who would have thought that Austin would make his move 6 years later? Stephen found this hard to believe. Austin hadn't assisted Melinda when she came to Santa Ana to get rid of him. "You'll regret it if you're lying to me." Scott waved his arms in surrender. "Why would I lie to you when I'm already in this state?" He explained in full detail the instructions from Austin. "It really was him," Stephen said coldly. "I told you everything. Can you let me go now?" Even though Scott was shrewd and almost cost the Wyvern Group a $90 million loss, he didn't deserve to die. Stephen let go of his collar. Scott was relieved that his feet were finally touching the floor again. "I'll return the $3 million deposit." Just as Scott was preparing to transfer the money, Stephen stopped him. "Wait, when did I say I would terminate the contract?" "What?" Scott glanced at Jasmine. "But what about—" Stephen could guess what Scott was thinking. Even though he was good at fighting, he wasn't an executive of the company. A mere security guard didn't have the authority to make decisions. "What I mean is, the area around here is quiet and spacious. This is exactly the place our company has been looking for to increase production. Isn't that right, Miss Jasmine?" "Yes," Jasmine agreed. "But although the Wyvern Group can afford $100 million, it's not worth the purchase, because this is a losing deal." "It's not up to us to decide whether it's a profitable deal or a losing one." Stephen waved at Scott. "Bring me another copy of this contract." Scott picked it up from the table and handed it over. Stephen flipped through the contract, picking up the pen, and wrote a string of numbers. "We'll be signing the contract according to this price." Scott glanced at the page and frowned. $5 million? But didn't we agree on $10 million? Stephen gave him a meaningful look. "Was it $10 million? You must have remembered incorrectly. When did Miss Jasmine suggest $10 million? When Scott didn't get the hint and was about to continue arguing, Stephen narrowed his eyes. Scott shrunk back and swallowed his words. "Even if Miss Jasmine told you that she would pay $10 million, she's changed her mind. It'll be $5 million. If you don't agree, then we'll be leaving." Stephen shot Jasmine a look. She nodded. "Yes, my final offer is $5 million. If we can't come to an agreement, then I'm afraid that I'll have to purchase a different factory. There are at least 5 other owners who have contacted me on their own accord to sell their factories. Their prices are below $5 million. When Scott didn't say anything, Jasmine stood up and pretended like she was about to leave. "I'll take your silence as a no. In that case, I'll be heading back. Have a nice day." "Hold on." Scott clenched his teeth. "Fine. $5 million it is." Stephen didn't screw him over that badly. $5 million was a reasonable price. According to estimates based on the market value, Scott's factory was worth around $3 to $7 million. If the remote location was taken into consideration, the average price would be around $4 million. Scott had already profited. This time, the details of the contract and signing their names went much more smoothly. Jasmine had already given Scott $3 million as a down payment. After giving him the remaining $2 million, his factory officially belonged to the Wyvern Group. From this incident, Jasmine's impression of Stephen changed quite a bit. Kim's husband wasn't completely useless. When Austin found out that Scott and the Wyvern Group had completed the purchase, he immediately gave Scott a call and demanded an explanation from him. Scott was just as furious. If he hadn't listened to Austin, he could have sold the factory for $10 million instead of $5 million. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got.
This is my factory. If I want to sell it, then I'm selling it. What does this have to do with you? Who do you think you are, Austin? Don't think you're all that just because you're a member of the Addams family. 13th guard? Yeah, right. You're just a dog your family raised.
Austin flew into a rage and tossed his phone across the room. He wanted to tear Scott to pieces. A man sitting next to Austin waved a folding fan. I'm guessing Scott surrendered to the Wyvern Group. He was probably threatened. Your plan to prevent them from purchasing the factory may have failed, but we still have a chance to mess things up for Stephen. Austin's interest was piqued. Do you have an idea, Mr. Quinn? The Wyvern Group's new medical device has replaced your company's product on the market, but that doesn't mean things will stay that way. Mr. Quinn whispered his plan in Austin's ear. Austin applauded him. You're a genius. If this goes well, the Wyvern Group's reputation will be ruined. After work, Stephen was surprised when Jasmine offered to treat him to a meal. Of course, Kim would be there too. Jasmine's opinion of Stephen had completely changed. It seemed like there was a reason why Kim wanted to keep him around. At the restaurant, Jasmine told Kim everything that happened at the factory. Stephen, how on earth did you guess that there was someone behind Scott? Jasmine asked. Stephen rolled his eyes. Anyone with a bit of intelligence could have guessed it all, okay? Jasmine felt like he was insulting her. Just tell me the truth. Okay, fine. To be honest, it was the owner's idea. Stephen was the Wyvern Group's owner, so technically this wasn't a lie. Jasmine's eyes sparkled. I knew it. I've never seen him before, but he's always planning ahead and saving me from sticky situations. I feel like he's always next to me. Stephen nearly choked on his glass of water. I'm talking about the Wyvern Group's owner. Why are you so worked up? If someone else were here, they might think you're the owner. I am the owner. Just drink your water. Kim propped her chin up with her hand. I've been wondering too, who exactly is this owner? It's rare for you to be so infatuated with a man. When we were in school, how many rich and handsome men lined up to pursue you? You didn't even look in their direction. Stephen scoffed. Doubt she was that popular. You two were friends, so you hung out together. They were probably lining up to chase after you, Kim. Shut it, Stephen, Jasmine snapped. I feel like the owner is quite bold, Kim said. The Wyvern Group has only just established the reputation, but he already wants to invest $1 billion into Haynes Industries. It just so happens to fill in the lack of funds for our resort project. This grand investment really broadens my horizons. Maybe he's taken a fancy to your potential, Jasmine guessed. You're an outstanding and capable woman. And not only that, but you're also the successor to 2 wealthy families. How could he not have heard about that? Do a good job with the resort project. Don't let him down. If you do well, maybe he might want to invest another $1 billion. Do you really think he has that much money to throw away at random companies? Kim asked. She and Jasmine burst into laughter. Seeing that Stephen was laughing as well, Jasmine put on a serious expression. You heard it firsthand. Your wife is becoming more amazing with each passing day. She's a rich woman with $1 billion. If you can't keep up with her, you're going to be abandoned. Stephen shrugged. In any case, he was the one who'd invested $1 billion into Haynes Industries. Kim felt a little disappointed at Stephen's indifferent expression. Would he ever learn how to defend himself or find a goal in life? While the three of them were having dinner, a nefarious scheme was being carried out at a certain private hospital. A private hospital had ordered the Wyvern Group's new medical device, and after implementing it into their patient care, an accident occurred which resulted in the death of a patient. After investigating, the hospital found the cause to be the medical device that they had recently purchased. Once this got out, the Wyvern Group was once again at the forefront of public opinion. After all, negative news spread fairly quickly. Even those who didn't know the whole story were cursing the company for making a faulty device. The private hospital canceled the rest of its orders, and all of the other major hospitals and medical institutions in Santa Ana did the same. The Wyvern Group had become the target of public criticism. When Stephen received news of this issue, he dropped everything and headed to the police station. One of the police officers there knew his identity. The police officer looked troubled in regard to Stephen's request. "Mr. Adams, it's not that I don't want to investigate, but because of the large scale of the problem at hand, an experienced investigation team based in Washington, D.C. will be taking over. They'll be arriving soon." "I understand. I'll take this up with them." "That would be difficult. This issue is complicated, not because of the case itself, but because of the person who's handling it." "Who's in charge?" Stephen asked in confusion. At the Grazing Corporation, Austin was relaxing in his office. He was in a good mood. "The Wyvern Group is like a grasshopper after autumn. It won't last long. Mr. Quinn, you didn't leave behind any evidence, right?" "Don't worry. I carried out the plan cleanly and smoothly. All of the evidence points towards the Wyvern Group. Stephen won't be able to do anything once the investigation begins." Jasmine was anxious and restless. The Wyvern Group's new medical device had only recently been released to the public and put on the market. Its future prospects were bright, but at a critical moment, a serious incident occurred. Not to mention, it hadn't been long since she'd become the vice president. Problems were popping up one after another. Jasmine wanted to discuss a countermeasure with Dennis, but he was away on a business trip. It would be a few days before he came back. She couldn't wait that long. The situation was too urgent for that. Another person crossed her mind. There was someone else who could help, Stephen. However, when Jasmine went to look for him at the security department, she found that he was also on leave. At this time, Stephen and Dennis were investigating the incident at the private hospital. Stephen inspected the medical device. Something felt off. Their company's invention had been refined countless times during the development phase. The error rate of this device was only 0.1%. In other words, even if the world were to be destroyed tomorrow, the device would still be functioning as it should. "This device was made by the Wyvern Group, but I have a feeling that this wasn't the real cause of the patient's death. Dennis, let's go to the security room and check the cameras." The security guard responsible for monitoring the hospital was reluctant to let outsiders view the footage, but he couldn't resist when Dennis held out a stack of bills. He stepped aside to make room for them. Dennis and Stephen watched the footage in the ward where the incident had occurred, starting from the installation of the device to the time of the accident. They couldn't find anything strange. Stephen replayed the footage, and finally, after watching it multiple times, he noticed that there was a short period of time where the flow was disrupted. Someone had edited the footage. "It looks like someone was trying to deliberately erase this particular time frame. What a shame. It's a given that they're talented because they didn't leave any traces behind, but it's too bad that I'm involved." Stephen made a copy of the footage and went with Dennis to find someone who could help restore the missing parts. Like Dennis, Rosalind was one of the 4 great generals. She possessed exceptional talent with computers, and she was one of the top hackers in the world. She could hack into the most safeguarded systems without leaving a single trace behind. "How long will it take for you to repair the footage?" Stephen asked. Rosalind inserted the USB into the laptop that she carried around. The person who erased this part of the footage is quite skilled. Normal people wouldn't have caught it, and normal hackers wouldn't have been able to do a thing. But it's too bad that I'm involved. Dennis felt like he'd heard the same thing less than an hour ago. Why did it sound so familiar? Okay, so how long will it take? Stephen repeated. Rosalind held up a finger. Give me one night. Tomorrow morning, I promise I'll restore the footage to its original state. Sure, I'll wait for your message tomorrow. The next morning, Rosalind sent the recovered footage to Stephen. According to the video, right before the time of the patient's accident, a man had instructed several people to remove the Wyvern Group's device and replace it with another. After the accident, the man put the original device back into place. This entire incident had been a setup from the very beginning. It wasn't hard to guess that this man was colluding with the private hospital, playing with innocent lives to compete in the business industry. How despicable! Not long after, the special investigation team based in Washington, D.C. arrived in Santa Ana. The police officer who Stephen had spoken to at the station asked him and Dennis to come in for questioning. The special investigation team consisted of 3 detectives. The 3 of them were aware of Stephen and Dennis's identities, and 2 of them greeted them politely. The 3rd investigator was not as courteous. We're here to handle a case, not to exchange pleasantries. A patient died, and these 2 could have been the cause. Why are you acting so subservient to them? We're investigators, and these 2 are the suspects. Get it together. The police officer's expression darkened. Mr. Stanton, do you know who this person is? I don't care who he is. If he violated the law, then he will be punished by the law. Stephen was impressed that Mr. Stanton could speak so boldly despite knowing their identities. Mr. Stanton is right. Our top priority is to find the truth, let the dead rest in peace, and pacify the public. Mr. Adams, it's good that we share the same mindset. Mr. Stanton motioned to his colleagues. Cuff them. We'll be treating them like criminals. The 2 investigators exchanged a nervous glance. Stephen was the commander-in-chief. How could they touch him so carelessly? Dennis tried to keep his tone level. Mr. Stanton, you don't have evidence. The facts are right in front of us. You 2 are the leaders of the Wyvern Group, and that makes you suspects. What's wrong with treating you like criminals? Stephen met the police officer's gaze. So this was why he said that the case itself wasn't complicated. It was the person handling the case who would make things difficult. At the Grazing Corporation, Mr. Quinn was giving Austin an update on the situation. The special investigation team is here. I believe the investigator with no brains, Mr. Stanton, is currently interrogating Stephen, letting that idiot handle this case. Mr. Quinn, you're brilliant. Mr. Quinn waved the fan in his hand. Apparently, Mr. Stanton is well known for his hot-headed and paranoid personality. He only trusts the facts and what he sees with his own eyes. Even the simplest of cases became complicated if he's in charge. All of the evidence is pointing towards the Wyvern Group. Stephen won't be able to turn this around. Well done, Austin said. Stephen wanted to make a comeback by taking his company, but it's all nonsense. As long as I get rid of him, the successor of the Addams family will be me. Of course, you're the only one who deserves that position. I'll be stating the investigation team later to make sure that happens. You really are a capable subordinate, Mr. Quinn. Our plan is flawless. After being strongly advised by the police officer and the other 2 investigators, Mr. Stanton agreed that Stephen and Dennis wouldn't have to be handcuffed. However, Mr. Stanton was still very stubborn. He wanted to place them under house arrest so that the team could head to the scene and search for evidence without worrying that they would escape. Dennis was so angry that he cursed out loud, despite his current image as a CEO. On the other hand, Stephen waited quietly for the results of the investigation. Just like what Stephen and Dennis had done before, Mr. Stanton led his team to the private hospital. They went through the footage in the security room and made a copy. They weren't as skilled as Stephen and Rosalind, so they didn't realize that the evidence was flawed. When the investigation team was on their way back, Mr. Quinn appeared. He gave them a statement on behalf of the public. Mr. Stanton, I finally found you. Mr. Quinn's tears instantly aroused the sympathy of Mr. Stanton and the others.
The Grazing Corporation has been producing a similar medical device for a long time, so we understand how important this case is. Ever since the Wyvern Group released their product, they've received billions of dollars worth of orders. As a company with a similar product, we put faith in their credibility. But after the recent accident, we took it upon ourselves to inspect their device. We found that they were flawed and posed many safety risks. On behalf of the public, we decided to ask the Wyvern Group for a refund. But they were domineering and arrogant. They refused to issue a refund. The public is boiling with resentment. Unfortunately, the Wyvern Group is too influential in this city, and our company barely has a sizable reputation. We simply don't have the means to contend with them. However, for the benefit of the public, I'm risking my life to explain the situation to you. I hope you and your team can uphold justice for the sake of the city and its people." Mr. Quinn had an aggrieved look on his face. With tears in his eyes, he spoke like he was a victim. His words resonated with Mr. Stanton. Mr. Stanton slammed his fist against the wall. Even though someone died because of their device, the Wyvern Group is still acting all high and mighty and treating their customers like trash. They're even threatening them with violence. Do they care about the law at all? Don't worry, Mr. Quinn. I'm in charge of this case. It doesn't matter how reputable they are. Whoever dares to commit a crime, I'll bring them to justice. Thank you, Mr. Stanton. Mr. Quinn lowered his head to hide the smile on his face. This was the end of the line for Stephen. Mr. Stanton and the other two investigators returned with an unfamiliar man. Dennis recognized him as the person from the footage. Wait, isn't that... Stephen stopped Dennis before he could identify him as the culprit. With the skill set of the special investigation team, he didn't think they could find the mastermind behind this incident. Mr. Stanton didn't bring this person here as a suspect. He must have voluntarily come with them. Sure enough, Mr. Stanton criticized Stephen and Dennis in front of him. You two only care about making money. You don't care at all what happens to your customers. This is Mr. Quinn. He's one of your customers who bought your so-called medical device. He's here to testify against you. All of the evidence points to you two. What do you have to say for yourselves? What are you talking about? That's not enough to pin this on us. Stephen held Dennis back and stepped forward with a smile. Mr. Stanton, you were really dedicated to your job as an investigator. I really admire you. Since the evidence is solid, then we have nothing else to say. Your team is responsible for bringing criminals to justice. Mr. Quinn pretended to be angry. You two really have no conscience. Rot in prison for the rest of your lives. I think you're talking to the wrong person, Stephen said. Mr. Stanton, since this case has been settled, I hope you can fulfill a small request of mine. Mr. Stanton was aware of Stephen's prestigious identity, so he accepted. As long as it's not against the law, I can do that for you. Thank you. Stephen took out a USB with the footage that Rosalind had discovered. Actually, my request is simple. Before I leave, I want everyone to watch this video with me. Stephen gestured to Mr. Quinn. Of course, I want the victim to watch with us as well. Mr. Stanton thought it over. Like Stephen had said, this was a simple request. He readily agreed. All right, but after the video ends, you two will have to come with us. Mr. Quinn was confused because Stephen didn't look rattled at all. As a matter of fact, he was calm and composed as always. What exactly was on that USB? Stephen turned around as if sensing his thoughts. Mr. Quinn, there's no need to keep guessing. This USB contains footage from a security camera. Let's watch it together. Mr. Quinn glanced at the USB in Stephen's hand. What was he up to? Well, it didn't matter. Even a world-class hacker wouldn't be able to recover the footage that had been edited out. Whatever the footage in the USB contained would not be him switching out the devices at the hospital. Since that was the case, this footage would only solidify the evidence that was already against Stephen and Dennis. Even though it had cost a lot of money to hire someone to tamper with the footage, it had been worth it. Mr. Stanton and the others couldn't figure out Stephen's intentions, but since watching a video was harmless, they decided to go along with it.
The beginning of the video was exactly the same as what Mr. Stanton and the others had seen at the hospital. It was long and monotonous. However, after the drawn-out introduction, a scene they hadn't seen before started playing. A man who looked exactly like Mr. Quinn entered the patient's room. He instructed a few of his subordinates to replace the Wyvern Group's device with another one. They left, and shortly afterward, doctors and nurses entered the room to treat the patient. That was when the accident occurred, resulting in the patient's death. After the accident, Mr. Quinn came back and switched out the device with the Wyvern Group's device. The investigators looked at each other and then at Mr. Quinn. "This is fake! He's setting me up!" Mr. Quinn exclaimed. Just when the case was about to be closed, Stephen revealed his hand at the last minute. "Mr. Quinn, we've never met before," Stephen said. "Why would I scheme against someone I don't even know? There are so many people in the world. Why would I choose you of all people?" Mr. Quinn was momentarily at a loss for words, but he quickly recovered. "That doesn't matter. The point is that this video of yours is fake." "Then we'll just need to verify the validity of the video," Stephen said, gesturing to Mr. Stanton and his team. "Several top-notch computer experts are working at their office in Washington, D.C. Stephen's video was different from what Mr. Stanton had seen at the hospital, but it was smoother. "This could be conclusive evidence. We'll have to verify it." Mr. Stanton removed the USB and sent the contents to his office in Washington, D.C. He also included the footage he'd watched from the hospital. Half an hour later, they replied. Stephen's video hadn't been tampered with, but there were signs of damage to the footage taken from the hospital. Mr. Stanton glared at Mr. Quinn. "So the person who harmed the patient was you. Restrain him." The other two investigators came forward and grabbed Mr. Quinn's arms, preventing him from escaping. Stephen patted his shoulder. "The heavens are always watching. Criminals like you should rot in prison for the rest of your life." "Take him away," Mr. Stanton instructed. With a wave of his hand, Mr. Quinn's fate was decided. With the conclusion of the case, the special investigation team wrapped up the loose ends and went back to Washington, D.C. The police officer was relieved to see them go without much hassle. If Stephen had been indicted for a crime he didn't commit in a city under his jurisdiction, his career as a police officer would have been over. He announced the results of the case in a press conference. At this time, Jasmine and the upper management were gathered in the conference room to discuss countermeasures. There was still no solution, even after 2 days of meetings. While Jasmine was frantically pacing in the hallway, she saw Stephen coming back to work. She hurried over and questioned him. "Where have you been for the past 2 days? Do you even have a sense of responsibility? You disappeared as soon as something happened to the company." Stephen rolled his eyes. "As a vice president, shouldn't I be asking you if you have a sense of responsibility? You couldn't even come up with a solution." Jasmine was stunned by the brutal truth, but she recovered quickly. "That's why I'm trying to get to the bottom of things. Come with me. We have to head out and investigate." "Miss Jasmine, are you from another planet? The issue has already been resolved. Did you not pay attention to the news?" Jasmine took out her phone and searched for the news. Her eyes widened as she pressed on an article that was released a few seconds ago. A special team from Washington, D.C. conducted a thorough investigation into the recent incident surrounding the Wyvern Group. The culprit intentionally caused the death of the patient for the sake of commercial competition. Currently, the perpetrator, Mr. Quinn, has been apprehended by the team. Jasmine looked up from her phone. "How did you know before the article was posted?" "The answer is simple. I wasn't here for the past 2 days, so I obviously went out to resolve the issue." "You really haven't changed. How would you be able to resolve such a major incident? Mr. Lucero was also gone for 2 days. He probably took care of it. Are you trying to take credit for his work? Don't think I won't report this to him." "Do whatever you want." Before Jasmine could catch a break, her assistant came running. "Miss Jasmine, something happened to Dr. Sloan." After Lionel visited the Haynes family's house, he spent the following days at the hospital. Stephen had been in charge of his housing arrangements. What could have gone wrong? "Don't rush, speak slowly," Stephen said. The assistant caught his breath and explained everything in detail. For the past few days, Lionel had been working at his outpatient clinic. He only charged $10 for the registration fee. As a distinguished expert physician at the national level, Lionel was already famous in the city. It didn't take long for his clinic to become popular. Waves of people came to see Lionel. Because of his outstanding medical skills, everyone was respectful and polite. Despite the crowd, no one cut in line. But this morning, a young man driving a Mercedes-Benz S-Class arrived at the clinic. He didn't pay the registration fee and walked past the long line to look for Lionel. Naturally, Lionel wasn't pleased. "Please register and wait in line like everyone else." "I never wait in line to see a doctor," the young man said. "I heard that your medical expertise is one of the best. I came over just to consult with you." "You're flattering me, but young man, could I trouble you to wait in line?" "I'm not sick. What is waiting in line going to achieve? I'm here to invite you over to my house to treat my grandfather's ailments. The car is outside. Follow me, Dr. Sloan." "I can't do that. The reason I opened this clinic was to make it more convenient for my patients. If your grandfather isn't feeling well, please bring him here to register. When it's his turn, I'll help in any way I can." "My grandfather isn't someone who waits in line either." The young man waved his hand, and two people stepped forward and grabbed Lionel. "What are you doing?" "Of course, I'm inviting you to my house to treat my grandfather. I've been polite all this while, but I have no choice but to use force." The patients online watched the young man's subordinates drag Lionel into the Mercedes-Benz S-Class. None of them dared to speak up. After all, they were ordinary people. They couldn't risk antagonizing this aggressive and arrogant, wealthy young man. Upon hearing of Lionel's kidnapping, Stephen stormed off without a word. He wanted to see just who in the city had the nerve to lay their hands on someone like Lionel. Jasmine went to the CEO's office to report this to Dennis. Lionel had only recently come to Santa Ana, and so far, he had two major affiliations: the hospital where his outpatient clinic was located and the Wyvern Group. Neither could afford to take responsibility if something happened to him. Dennis told her that his boss would personally take care of it so she could carry out her work at the company with peace of mind. The recent incident with the Wyvern Group had been resolved, and their reputation had been saved, but there was still much to be done due to the influence of public opinion. These tasks fell on the vice president's shoulders. While Jasmine was preoccupied with her vice president duties, Stephen asked Jack to investigate Lionel's whereabouts. Jack gave him a call in less than a minute.
"The young man who took Lionel away in broad daylight was Darius Hunt. He's the grandson of the former head of the underworld, Josiah Hunt."
"Former head?"
Before the fight between Trent and Sergio, Josiah controlled the underworld. But now, Josiah has washed his hands of everything concerning the underworld and no longer involves himself in their conflicts. But those who have taken over since then used to be his subordinates, including the leader of the Santa Ana gang, Blake, and the deceased Trent and Sergio. With one word from Josiah, the city streets will turn chaotic.
"Josiah is quite the influential man. No wonder his grandson is so arrogant."
What's your plan, Mr. Adams?
"Go straight to their house and take Lionel back."
That might not be the best idea. You see, Josiah has always admired you. He even gave himself the nickname Commander Hunt. He would often train his subordinates and manage them according to the rumors he's heard of you. He would imitate your methods at every turn. Because of his status and connections in Santa Ana, the city might be negatively affected if conflict were to break out. It would be better to keep a low profile and use a more reserved method to beat him. I believe that with your influence, you can make him send Dr. Sloan back unharmed.
Stephen didn't expect the former head of the underworld to be his admirer.
"You're right. I'll write him a letter and have someone to deliver it to him."
Stephen went to the CEO's office and wrote 2 words on a blank sheet of paper: Commander Adams. Then he passed the letter to Dennis.
"Contact the Commerce Guild and ask them to get Blake to come."
"Yes, sir." At a pavilion on the outskirts of Santa Ana, 2 people were engaged in a fierce battle of chess. The elderly man was Josiah Hunt, the former head of the underworld. His middle-aged competitor was his son, Maurice Hunt. While the father and son duo were engaged in an intense battle, Darius's voice broke their concentration. "Dad, Grandpa, I invited an important guest to our house." "Who is it?" Josiah asked. "Grandpa, haven't you always told me about your ailment that couldn't be cured? I heard one of the best doctors in the country just so happens to be in the city right now, so I invited him over." Josiah and Maurice exchanged a glance. "Did you really invite Dr. Sloan here?" Both of them were very familiar with their son's personality. Darius had been doted on since he was a child, and he'd made it a habit to rely on his family's influence to get what he wanted. He was rude and arrogant, but no one in the city dared to call him out on it because he was Josiah's grandson. Maurice was doubtful. "As far as I know, even the wealthiest family in the city has to wait in line to get treated. Everyone is regarded as a commoner at his clinic. How did you get him to accept your invitation?" Josiah was also curious. He looked at Darius expectantly. "You two are making it sound like he's hard to find. It wasn't that difficult. When I went to his clinic, he didn't want to come, so I had someone drag him back with me." Josiah's jaw dropped. It wouldn't have been a big deal if Darius had dragged back an ordinary person, but Lionel Sloan was in a different league. There were rumors that he was over 100 years old. What's more, it was common knowledge that he'd received a medal for his contributions to the country, and he was considered a national treasure. The country loved and respected him. And what did his grandson say? Did he invite Dr. Sloan to our house by dragging him here? "You idiot! What were you thinking? You can't just drag Dr. Sloan wherever you want." Josiah was scolding his grandson, but in contrast, Maurice's eyes shone brightly. "Wait, I think this might be a good thing." "What nonsense are you talking about?" "Dad, think carefully. Ever since you retired, our influence in the underworld has been declining day by day. We didn't even know the reason behind Trent and Sergio's deaths. And even Blake rarely visits us. The number of times he's come to our house can be counted on one hand. It's obvious that he's looking down on us," Maurice said. "You do have a point. All right, so what's your brilliant plan?" "Dr. Sloan treats all of his patients like commoners when they visit his clinic, but we're not just anyone. We'll be the first ones to break his rules. This will be our message to the people in the city, including the underworld. Our family's glory still exists, and even the world-renowned Dr. Sloan must abide by our rules." "Well said, Maurice," Josiah praised. "It doesn't matter how famous Dr. Sloan is. In Santa Ana, I make the decisions, and I have the final say. No matter who it is, they'll have to lower their eyes in front of me." At this time, Blake entered the Wyvern Group's CEO's office on the top floor of the building. As one of the 4 great generals under Stephen's command, it wasn't appropriate for Dennis to deliver a letter to someone who had deep ties with the underworld. Blake was Josiah's subordinate, and he was also the leader of the Santa Ana gang. He was the best person to pass on the message. "Mr. Lucero, what can I do for you?" Blake asked politely. Dennis handed him Stephen's handwritten letter. "You've heard about Dr. Sloan's kidnapping, right?" "Yes, I know about it. I heard Josiah's grandson, Darius, is the culprit." "Seems like the news spread quickly. Well, you and many people in the underworld are Josiah's subordinates after all. My boss doesn't want things to blow out of proportion. He wants to take care of this quietly. This is a letter from my boss. It's for Josiah. With his intelligence, he should understand what my boss is trying to say." Blake glanced at the 2 words on the paper. Commander Adams. He instantly understood. "Don't worry, Mr. Lucero. I'll definitely pass this message to Josiah on behalf of Mr. Adams." Because this letter was from Stephen, Blake wasted no time and rushed to Josiah's mansion right after leaving the building. Aside from Blake, many other influential figures in Santa Ana were also rushing to the mansion. Before long, the entrance to Josiah's house was crowded with luxury cars. It almost seemed like Josiah and his family were holding a grand event for the upper class. Even the richest man in the city, Andy Harrell, had arrived. Lionel's kidnapping was a hot topic on the news. Everyone here was planning on pleading with Darius to let Lionel go. If everything went well, then Lionel would be in their debt, and with his status, he would become their tool for raking in money. Unfortunately, before they even had a chance to implement their plan, they were stopped outside the entrance. Even Andy was no exception. There was no helping it. Josiah was the former head of the underworld. Even though he'd already retired, he was still influential, and no one dared to go against him. They could only idle outside the house, hoping for Josiah to change his mind. In the evening, Darius reported Blake's arrival to Josiah and Maurice. "He never pays us a visit without a reason," Maurice grumbled. "It's probably because of Dr. Sloan. Does he really think we don't know what he's up to? How naive."
"But he's still my subordinate, and he's the current head of Santa Ana's underworld," Josiah said. "Let him in." "Mr. Josiah, I came today because I was entrusted by someone to pass on a message," Blake announced when he entered the house. "The leader of Santa Ana's underworld became an errand boy. Are you delivering messages for a living now?" Darius mocked. Josiah and Maurice were just as surprised. Josiah's impression of Blake was getting worse. "Who told you to deliver a letter?" "I'm sorry, but I can't reveal his identity, but he did write a letter for you." Blake held out Stephen's letter. Josiah looked down at the paper with both Maurice and Darius glancing over his shoulder. "Commander Adams, what does this mean?" Blake didn't say anything. "Your nickname is Commander Hunt," Maurice said. "Commander Adams is clearly referencing your nickname. Whoever wrote this letter has Adams as his last name, and he wants you to return Dr. Sloan." Darius gave him a thumbs up. "Dad, you're so smart. That must be it." "Could it be the Adams family?" Josiah suggested. "No, that's impossible. Their family is based in Washington, D.C. They're far from Santa Ana. Why would they care about us?" "Maybe it's Austin Adams," Maurice said. "They say he's one of the Adam family's adopted sons, and his nickname is 13th Guard. He's the most likely suspect." "If what you say is true, then Austin probably sent this letter," Josiah said. "His strong family background does give him a reason to treat Blake like an errand boy. But the thing is, we don't know for sure whether he's the Adams family's adopted son or not. I'm not afraid of him. But we and the Adams family have never meddled in each other's business. There's no reason for Austin to go against us." Maurice thought about it. "I think you're right. I heard people say that Austin's polite and well-mannered. They even call him a modest gentleman. Even if he does want us to let Dr. Sloan go, he wouldn't do it in such a disrespectful way." Josiah couldn't figure it out. "Then who could it be?" "I've thought of someone," Darius chimed in. "I heard there's been a change in the Haynes family recently. Gordon's granddaughter, Kim Cassidy, came to Santa Ana from Los Angeles and became the successor. Her husband is famous in Los Angeles. His name is Stephen Adams." "I don't know about that," Josiah said. "It's entirely possible, Grandpa. When Kim first came to Santa Ana, her position in the Haynes family was low, but somehow she managed to become the successor." "Are you implying that it was because of Stephen?" Maurice asked. "Yes, there can't be any other reason. I've seen Kim before. She's beautiful, but she didn't strike me as the ambitious type. I don't think she would take the initiative to snatch the successor position from someone else in her family. Gordon and Mavis have 5 daughters, but Kim's mother was the only one who doesn't hold a position at Haynes Industries. There had to be some foul play there." Darius had long heard of Kim's beauty, but he could never find the right opportunity to get close to her. The Haynes family was one of the many influential families in Santa Ana, so even though he was Josiah's grandson, he couldn't make a move so easily. This incident would be the perfect opportunity for him to meet Kim. It didn't matter whether the note was written by Stephen or not. "That makes sense," Maurice said. "Stephen's clearly looking down on us. I'm heading out to teach him a lesson." "Wait!" Josiah stopped Maurice before he could leave. The circumstances with this letter aren't clear yet. We can't let rumors spread. Right now, we have Dr. Sloan in our hands. The entire city has its eyes on us. We can't stir up more trouble." As the former head of the underworld, it could be said that Josiah had more brains than anyone else here. How could a mere freeloading husband be able to persuade the leader of the underworld, Blake, to deliver a letter in person? Josiah thought about it again. "I see. Since the other party is giving me a warning if I were to let this go, wouldn't that mean I'm admitting that I'm afraid of them? This is the first time in many years that someone's giving me a warning in secret." Josiah picked up a pen and drew a line on the letter. Adams was crossed out and replaced with Hunt. "I'm the only person worthy of the title of commander." He gave the letter back to Blake. "Give this to whoever ordered you to come here." Blake was concerned when he saw the contents of the letter. "Mr. Josiah, I advise you to think this over. He's not someone you should mess with." "What a joke," Darius said. "There's no one we can't mess with in this city. Since you like delivering letters so much, then get out of here and do your job." Seeing that both Josiah and Maurice agreed with Darius, Blake didn't say anything else. He neatly folded the letter, put it in his pocket, and left the house.